everybody, and welcome to the Nostalgia Test podcast. I'm Will.
I'm Drew.
And this is a podcast where we look at an album, a television show, a movie, a game, or something from our childhood and see if it holds up to date as much as we enjoyed it back then. So, how have you been this week, Drew?
I've been good. I've been at home, relaxing by the pool all the time. I was literally at the pool 4 hours yesterday. And it wasn't yesterday, but I got burned the first day, and it's been kind of miserable. I just have to kind of relearn that lesson, probably like once a year, which really sucks. But yeah, hanging in there. It's been good to get a break from work and just enjoy some quality family time and what's open at least, all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. What have you been consuming this week media-wise?
Well, I finished right before I left Silicon Valley, which I started.
Nice.
Yeah, I started it when it was like season 2 or 3, and I like binged it with a trial, and then I caught up and finished the last half of the show, which I guess it ended like a year or two ago. But I'm in the like tech industry. That's like my major, and so I really appreciate the satire it gives, and I also love that it like isn't afraid to make fun of anybody, especially even the people in the industry. And also just like any kind of thing you can imagine. It's just a clever comedy, and it's a little more realistic. So yeah, I really like the story and some of the actors, and especially I love Dinesh because he's like the voice of Prismo, which like just was kind of my gateway into it. But
that's awesome. Yeah, a lot of people have recommended. Even my dad recommended that show to me, but I haven't gotten to watch it yet. What I've been watching this week has been Hunter x Hunter, which Joe recommended to me. So been watching that. I like paced myself through the first season, and then I don't know if it was less episodes, but I finished the second season in a day.
Wow. Huh.
I think it was like a day. If it was at most 2 days, and I was like, what? When I looked at the episode, it was like season 3. I was like, what?
Yeah, aren't like animes sometimes short, I guess, for seasons?
It depends, yeah. They have like anime seasons in Japan where it's like the spring season and the fall season. So if it's only for like that, like one of those lengths, it might be shorter.
Gotcha.
And then the other thing I've been watching, another friend recommended Community to me, so I've been watching Community. Yeah. It has Donald Glover in it, so I've been enjoying that a lot as well.
Yeah, I watched like 2 episodes of that, and like a few times I've tried getting into it, and like. I mean, I don't dislike it, but I just haven't like stuck around enough with it. But I need to get back in.
Yeah. I went to community college at one point, so the jokes pertaining to like that culture are kind of funny to me.
Yeah, definitely. And then today we got a new Skrillex song, and surprisingly Kanye and Ty Dolla $ign and FKA Twigs, and then yesterday we got Kanye, and it's been a weird music week for sure.
Yes, double Kanye 2 days in a row. Yeah, I actually I don't know what your thoughts are on them, but I enjoyed both the tracks a lot. It's definitely more like a Skrillex produced track than a Skrillex track, Yeah. Like his influence is more subtle, but I like the synergy between all the vocalists, and I think the beat is awesome. It's just a very vibey track, and then Kanye put out his own very, very, like, even for him, like, out of left field track featuring Travis Scott.
Featuring
that
triple
yeah, like a little, like, there's a little bit of, you can hear Travis Scott's voice on it.
Yeah.
It's not even like he has a whole verse. It's not even like he has a whole verse on it, but apparently his next album coming out is called God's Country. And it basically sounds like it's going to be like a Christian version of Jesus. So let's see how that one turns out.
It's like the opposite of Jesus in terms of like him being, versus focusing on.
Yeah. If Jesus is about like the ego and like elevating yourself to a god, this is about like elevating another god.
Yeah, I didn't care for either track. Some of the lyrics were, I guess the lyrics are good, and then some of them are really intriguing, which is actually good and bad, in my opinion. And I looked at, specifically Ego Death, had like 15 on the writing credits on Spotify, and like, like Skrillex has been one to add writing to so many songs on even like, I was on like an Elohim song, he like wrote the lyrics. That weird song, You know what I mean? Like he writes a lot of lyrics for other producers. No, it was an older song.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I just like felt like it was a little bit too pop for me in terms of like the writing and the production, and I do agree with the synergy and the like chemistry between everybody in it. So I do appreciate that with like the variety.
Mm-hmm.
Like it somehow connects all these random artists together. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, I love the Lewis the Child album. As I made like a
That one I
YouTube review
haven't
of that.
gotten to listen to yet, but you reviewed it.
Yeah, so you got a good taste of it. And they put out like 5 singles, which I never historically liked, but there's enough songs. And I think near the end, some of them are so unique and interesting and like really made my ears pop, as is evident. But
Yeah, I did listen to the singles, and I really liked the one with Earth Gang on it.
yeah. Oh, I don't even think that was I might have missed it then if that was a single, but I love that bittersweet.
It was a single, but it was literally like before.
Gotcha. I love the one with Quinn and Chelsea. That one is so
Yeah, I
intoxicating
like that
and
one
catchy.
too.
And then the one with Drew Love is like so classic, but it's funny how like our favorite artists keep coming up, because like we're about to talk about like Kaskade this episode, and like Kaskade, Lewis the Child, Bass Nectar, Skrillex, like it's so interesting how their careers kind of they start in the same place, at least for us, and then they kind of all splinter into like different paths.
Yeah, but they've all like stuck around for me. Like they're like I'm always finding new music and finding like new and up and coming artists that I'm enjoying. But then there's like those ones that I always like go to.
Yeah,
You know.
definitely.
Are you having a happy hour right now?
Yeah, I just went to our little outdoor fridge and I found an Angry Orchard hard cider. So the
Nice.
classic home drink that's always good.
Yeah. I'm having a beer from Oddside Ales from Michigan. This is called Mango Peach Dank Juice, which is an IPA brewed with mangoes and peaches.
And dank and juice.
And is dank and is juicy. Yeah, pulling that up here. It's got a nice color to it. It definitely smelled like those like fruit flavors definitely come through. And when you taste it, it's like mostly IPA taste, but you definitely get like a lot of mango on it and a little bit of peach on it. So it's pretty good.
My new favorite summer thing is to like muddle things with lemonade.
Yeah, that's
specifically
awesome.
like cucumber. I don't like love
Interesting.
cucumber, and to me it sounds kind of gross with like a drink, but it's incredible. Like just muddle a few cucumber slices in your lemonade. Also like mint, blueberry, strawberry. Like I even tried watermelon, but it wasn't amazing. It kind of like the seeds, there's like some careful stuff with that, but
Yeah. So our main topic today, the artist is Kaskade, and the album is Fire and Ice from 2011.
yeah, and this one was really fun to like look back on and research, just to see the stunning difference in like 2011 Kaskade and current Kaskade. I actually listened to an interview he did like 4 years ago with Larry King, which was kind of mind-blowing that happened in general.
Yeah, I remember that interview.
And I love specifically the Back to Back podcast, and he has 2 episodes with Kaskade, and they're each like, I think they might be 2 hours, like they're some of his longest. And Kaskade just goes into like his whole history. And you probably know most of it with like Chicago, growing up as a teenager and taking the train to the city, and in the 80s and seeing Frankie Knuckles, and like Chicago is pretty much where house music was born, and it's also where I guess electronic music started in America. I think that's because I remember I had a week in my music class in college on electronic music, and we talked about the Chicago scene in Detroit and stuff. But
Yeah, Chicago and Detroit both like breeding grounds for Chicago for house music and Detroit for techno music, and both were birthplaces of electronic music in the United States, and both like very underground movements too, and really like kickstarted by minorities, between people of color and LGBTQ people. That was like an expressive space for them and an expressive medium.
yeah, it was really funny because Larry King like asked him the controversial question, because I think this was after a few deaths.
Oh yeah,
about
like drugs and stuff.
And he kind of played the like Mormon, because Kaskade is very Mormon and very practicing.
Yeah.
And he has 3 kids, and he's like way different than what most people think of the scene. And so he kind of asked him that pointed question about if it has influence on you and the drugs and the culture. And he was saying how like growing up, I love how he like diffused it because he was like, yeah, when I was growing up, most of my friends, because I live in the suburbs, they would like borrow money from their parents and buy some like pot or get a keg and throw a party. But I was just like riding the train in and going dancing. And he was saying how like the community then, and I think in most ways now, is so inclusive and open that like it's not like you have to do ecstasy to like fit in. It's not like this peer pressure high school thing. I mean, obviously there's like toxicity in every community, but it was interesting how he answered it. I thought it was really graceful.
Yeah, I think the quote from that one that stuck out to me when he was like, this is like paraphrasing it, this is not exactly what he said, but he's like, when you get down to the music, everything else becomes ancillary. And it's like, like if music's at the core of that, like, everybody's going for a different reason. Some people are going to escape. Some people are going to hear their favorite artists. Some people are going to experiment with different substances and stuff. But like at the end, like if you put music at the center, like you can be whatever in that environment. And
back to the like 2011 when this came out, this was his 7th album, which blew my mind because I got into him in 2012, 2013. For his 8th album, which is just insane. I haven't listened to his older albums. I guess the first song I heard was I Remember with Deadmau5, which was 2009, which we were like 11, 12. Like,
yeah. So how old was I in 2000?
I
was like 13. I was like 13 and you would have been like 12 at that time. Yeah, so I got into Kaskade in 2011 actually when this album came out, but I discovered him same like you brought up I Remember. I found Kaskade because I was super into Deadmau5 and I was like going through Deadmau5's discography on iTunes and I found I Remember and Move For Me. And I saw that Kaskade was on the song, and I thought it was Kaskade, who made Every Time We Touch.
I was thinking of the cleaning, I thought you were gonna. I was like thrown off.
Yeah. Well, like it can be that word is in so many things, so so it could be. But that's what like I thought it was at first, especially because both those tracks have female vocals on it. So I was like, oh, it's the people made Every Time We Touch, and but then I was like clicked on him and I was like, oh, he has all of his own albums and stuff like that. So that's how I got into Kaskade. So this would have been the album that we're talking about, Fire and Ice, would have been the album that was out when I got into him, and then of course a couple years after, Atmosphere came out.
And that was like the peak.
Yeah.
It's definitely not his peak, but for us, that was it when I got into him. But
well, in some ways, that actually kind of was his peak. So I was doing some research before, and I kind of wrote down like an abbreviated history right here. And this, I always do like research notes for whenever we do an episode, and his are definitely the longest because he has so much going on. So you've already mentioned Kaskade grew up in Chicago, which was one of the birthplaces of house, and that's how he got into house music, dance music, electronic music. Anyway, he moved out to San Francisco, and he started DJing. At first, in 1995, it was just his own name. He was just Ryan Radin. And then eventually he took on a Kaskade name later because he was working for a record label in San Francisco, and he was able to bring that Chicago sound to the record label.
Wow.
Yeah. So his first single came out in 2001, and then, he was going as Kaskade, and then it just... it took off from there. He has lots of achievements. He was the first DJ ever to headline the Staples Center in LA. So that was like a huge deal because that was around like the EDM boom. So like at that point, electronic music was mostly like clubs and small venues. So he was able to take his, what tour was it? It was the Freaks of Nature tour, which was...
For Fire and Ice, I think.
Yeah, it was. And that had some interesting openers too. Alvin Risk was one of the openers on that tour.
Because he met with Skrillex for a song on Fire and Ice, so I guess that would make sense with him being in that California Bay Area with Skrillex's team and Alsla forming around that. Yeah,
and so that was a huge accomplishment that he was able to bring like an underground club show to an arena. And another achievement, he has the record for the largest Coachella crowd in history. So he got to play the main stage in the Atmosphere era, and that I don't know how they like assess it. I don't know if they assess it by how far back the crowd goes or if they're actually counting how many people, but as of the Coachella documentary that came out a few months ago, they still said he was the biggest crowd ever. And he wasn't even the headliner that night. He was like 2 from the top or 1 from the top.
It's kind of like that jelly bean game where you have to like use math to like, guess out the average like space of a human and then like look at the overshot from the drone and calculate your best guess.
Yeah. They did have drones flying over to capture footage for that one. But that's just insane that he's like so popular in California that all those people came out for him.
I remember tuning into that live set.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Kaskade's also been nominated for 7 Grammys. He has not won a single one of them, but 7 times for both singles and albums, and once or twice a remix too. Mm-hmm. He's been nominated for Grammys.
Has he won any, or just?
No. He none of them he won, but nominated 7 times.
He's never been on the radio either, which is kind of crazy for somebody his size. In that.
Yeah, I actually have a note of that too. He's gotten 2 number 1s on the Billboard US Club Chart with I Remember and Go Slow, but none on like the mainstream chart, like not on like the Hot 100 or the Top 200.
That's like a decade apart, those songs too. That's really weird.
Yeah, very interesting. You have an old classic from him and then a newer one.
I also appreciate I appreciate with this show that like a lot of what we cover is almost like a decade old at least, or about. So I think that's a cool, time frame to like look back at some of these older.
Yeah. Worlds being the exception to that.
Right.
But everything else much older. And he was named America's Best DJ twice.
Wow.
And he made the list many other times, but he was number 1.
Well, you know what? I'll name him America's Best DJ for a 3rd time. There you
go. Amazing. And your list is honestly just as legitimate as every other top 10 list. Yeah. He also is a member of the trance group Late Night Alumni. He does way less stuff with... Yeah.
Dude, I had no idea who they were. I just always saw them featured on his stuff.
Yeah, they're featured on his songs because he used to be a touring part of their group. Now it's more just 2 of the other people in that group, but he used to be like a regular member of that group.
Oh my gosh. I always thought it was like a singer.
One of them is a singer.
Because that's most of his features, so.
Yeah, the features are all the female vocalists from Late Night Alumni.
That's mind-blowing.
Last 2 facts I've got from him are he's collabed with giant people like deadmau5 and Skrillex, of course. Although at the time, Skrillex was just like up and coming that on this album.
That was around Scary Monsters, pretty much.
Yeah. And he has done official remixes for dozens of people, including, I have to take a breath for this one, Frank Sinatra, Daft Punk, Justin Timberlake, Beyonce, Maroon 5, Alicia Keys, Madonna, Britney Spears, Usher, Lady Gaga, Imagine Dragons, Katy Perry, Lana Del Rey, Skrillex, and Jack U.
And Justin Bieber.
And Justin Bieber. And that's just scratching the surface. I just picked like the super like wild and notable names that stuck out there.
Yeah. That's crazy.
He's just done so much through his whole time. You said he has so many albums out, even a Christmas album.
Yeah. Oh, I love that album. I think my favorite part, personally, and I don't love him in 2020. I think his recent releases have been too numerous, and it kind of takes away from the magic when he puts out, EP after EP, and especially single after single. Like, he just kind of keeps pumping out random songs with so many different people.
Yeah. Especially when a lot of his older albums, Atmosphere and Back, are very well put together. Yeah.
They're so intentional. They have so many... But the thing I love is that everybody he works with, I would say aside from the remixes, which he still does better than a lot of his contemporaries. If you look at his contemporaries, such as like Tiesto, Diplo, David Guetta, Calvin Harris, anybody else that like is more mainstream and like a household name or on the pop crossover kind of DJs, I feel like he's a little more consistent and like he stays true to his own music integrity, and he's more about the songwriting. He even sings and the production.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, he does.
And I also love that he like works with his friends, like like Late Night Alumni, Skylar Grey, Haley, like all these artists keep popping up on his different songs. It's not like he's working with pop stars, except for the Meghan Trainor song is like one exception that I forget about.
Yeah.
But for the most part, he works with people that he like has a connection with and are unique. So.
Exactly, yeah, for sure. He's not just reaching up, although he does have several very high-profile collabs. He's not always just reaching for, like, the next big collab. He has a nice spread of everybody. Mm-hmm. And brought up a lot of smaller people, like Galantis really, like, got on the map because of him.
Project 46 as well.
Yeah, for sure. They were just on Monster Cat at the time, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I remember finding them before Atmosphere. And then he just put out a song with Project 46 this year that sounded like a song out of like 2014.
Did I miss that? I should check that out.
It legitimately sounds like Big Room before like Martin Garrix, like that early Big Room. It was weird, but...
That's wild. We should talk about the album, but I do also want to throw out that we've seen him together and separate several times. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the first time we saw him was at Free Fest in 2013. So Atmosphere had just come out. He was super popular at the time, although he was playing in the middle of the day.
Yeah, he's one of the like craziest DJs as far as his scheduling. Like he'll play into sunrise or into the sunrise. Like he literally will play for hours long. He'll play all over the world and he'll play at the weirdest times of night or day. Like this man is crazy. Like his peak message of his album after like Automatic in 2015 was like, we don't stop, I'm automatic. Like his constant life is crazy. But
yeah, and he's truly like a DJ's DJ. Like he's in it for the craft. Not only is he a very good producer, but he's like in it for the craft of DJing. He has so many different types of sets and he knows how to play to he can appease like a festival crowd, but he can also play like just to a club of only diehard fans. We saw him at Free Fest. We saw him at Moonrise Festival. He was supposed to play Moonrise twice. Second time didn't happen. And then the first time was unfortunately kind of forgettable. But
the first one at Free Fest was honestly in my top 5 favorite sets.
Yeah.
Like, it was so... Like, Euphoric sounds cheesy, but, like, it truly... Something about the music really captured me spiritually. Like, again, cheesy, but...
No, like, the whole experience. So that was like, technically a part of the Atmosphere tour. But as we were waiting for him to come on, the weather was kind of in contention that day. And it started raining. And then, like, he comes on the stage, and the opening song is raining. And it was just like, what is going on here?
Just perfect. And then, like, I don't think I had known... I guess I knew, like, Eyes and Turn It Down, and I knew a lot of his songs. But something about seeing them live and seeing the lyrics and his production and just, like, hearing them in that huge crowd, it really made the songs, like, stick with me forever. And it made them, like, really stand out, hearing them there first sometimes.
Yeah. And then I also got to see him on one of his redo tours. So that was in a club. It was like a 200 cap club. It was a long set. He was supposed to play for like almost 3 hours, but he was late. So it was like a 2.5 hour set. And it was just like wild because a lot of the bigger songs that we hear on Fire and Ice and on Atmosphere and on Automatic, he made like stripped down edits of them to play, because in redo he's taking it more back to a deep house style, and he made like stripped back versions of a lot of the Automatic and Atmosphere songs and played a lot of the Ice mixes from this album, and it was just like so good. And then you got to see him in a very interesting setting.
Yeah, mine was like the opposite of that. It just opened in Minneapolis. I was there for a summer, and it was the Armory. It was probably one of the biggest clubs in America. It like opened in 2017. And like it was for the X Games. So I bought a day pass and I was able to go see all the events and the sports in the big arena for the Steelers.
That's wild.
Did I say Steelers? Holy crap.
Not Steelers.
The Vikings. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm not really into football or into extreme sports, but Kaskade was so perfect. It was probably only like an hour, but it was probably the best hour. And actually, it's probably longer. It was probably like an hour and a half. There were no openers, which I loved, actually. Actually, there was one.
That's a really cool concept, honestly.
Yeah, like, everybody just kind of walked over after all the sports. And, like, he freaking played Language by Porter Robinson mixed with one of his acapellas. And this was in 2018. And he played I Remember, like, just straight up. He played Eyes straight up. He played, like, everything I could have ever hoped for. It was the most perfect set. Like, it was just a throwback set, which, to me, like, makes me say, yeah, Fire and Ice holds up, because he's still rinsing a lot of those songs, so.
Yeah, for sure. And we can start talking about those tracks as we talk about this album. This has a lot of songs, so I don't know how in-depth we can go with each song, but do you know anything about, like, the creation of this album at all?
Well, yeah, he was saying that this is his 7th album, and he was saying, like, every album he, like, has a new studio to work on it at.
Whoa.
So this one was in Santa Monica, and you could walk to the beach, and he kind of showed every collaborator and how they met, and a lot of them came to the studio and sang and worked with him, and they like wrote, I think they wrote Turn It Down with is it Rebecca and Fiona in a day. And it's so cool, like you mentioned the Fire and Ice aspect, like, and I guessed this, but he did clarify. He said that, like, the album has 10 songs, and then the other 10 songs, and there's, like, the Ice mix, and then the Fire mix. And he did say Fire mix, which is not on the album, technically. But I think it's a really, really, really cool concept, especially with what you were saying. Like, he really, really DJs to each crowd. Like, he had the Sun-Soaked tour, where it was, like, beach concerts. He has his Redux tours. He has his festival sets. And they all are drastically different. And he kind of, like, started that with Fire and Ice, which was his first production tour where he used his own. He has like 6 vans for this, or like 3 trucks and 3. He had a huge, like bus tour, and it's also cool, just like the Fire Ice dynamic of his like 2 sounds,
Yeah, it's amazing. I used to, in the past, I called the Ice mix like the deep side of it, but like. It really, re-listening to it to prepare for the podcast, it kind of goes beyond just being like a deep side of it. It's almost like the alternative side of it. Like, he's got guitars on some of the Ice mixes. He's got crazy drops on some of these. Like,
oh, I know what you mean.
Yeah, like, it's the 2 sides is wild. The Fire side definitely lends towards like his typical sound and like the progressive sound that was becoming popular around like 2011, 2012, like as Big Room was taking off. But then the, on the Ice mix, anything goes, man. Yeah,
it's really fascinating. Like, did he play some of the Ice mixes when you saw him like 2 years ago, or were
he definitely played LLOV or L Love. I'm not sure how you're supposed to say that.
Yeah.
And he played Waste Love, and he definitely played some of those.
That's insane. So this was actually kind of difficult for me. Like, I know the first half of the album so perfectly, but then like there's a few songs that I honestly did not know that well. Like, I've probably only heard a couple of times, because it is kind of an intimidating album that it's like an hour and a half.
Yeah, and it's so long.
It makes it better that it's like 10 minutes or 10 songs and another 10 songs. But when I was like into him, this period of my life, I was more listening to music when I would DJ, and I didn't necessarily want to DJ with every single Ice mix and every single song off this. So I kind of like know some of them really well, and then some of them were like almost for the first time listening for this episode.
Well, I realized I'm similar to that way for some of the songs, because re-listening to it, and we'll delve into this a little more as we talk about each song, but I realized some of them, like, I did not love as much, and like I had almost like forgotten how they sounded because I didn't love them as much. So we can bring that up. All right, so there's 2 ways we could tackle this. We could go through all the songs on Fire and then all the songs on Ice, or we could do each song and talk about its Fire and Ice at the same time. So which do you think is the better way to do it?
I actually thought about listening to it with the second way, where you like play them back to back, and I had to for one of them. I think that's the better way to talk about it, for sure, since they do share.
Yeah, let's do that. I like that idea. All right, so top of the album is Eyes, classic Kaskade song. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he probably plays this like every single show, I imagine.
It always has some really striking visuals too. I mean, it's called Eyes, so there's like a pretty obvious choice of what you want your visuals to be here, but it's always like really striking to me.
Yeah, and I think this is like there's a theme of eyes in the album, and I don't know if I sensed a theme of heartbreak and new love, and like definitely is sadness, but like hopefulness, and it almost every song is romantic for sure, and a lot of them have love in the title.
Yeah.
And like I think this starts the trend of like eyes, and I would say I always looked at it in a spiritual sense of like looking at them not for their beauty, but for like their soul through looking in their eyes. Because your brain, you probably know this, but your brain, like 90% of what you process is from your sight, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it's a lot of our senses is just that, and yeah, and we know that Kaskade is a spiritual person as well, so that kind of makes sense too. And the kind of to what you said about like the like heartache theme, I think the end of the album really like exemplifies that with How Long into Room for Happiness.
Yeah.
Kind of like the longing, and then like making room for like having to make room for like other happiness after losing something.
Yeah, and something else I wanted to mention that why I like Kaskade more than like any other house music, because honestly, the only house artists I listen to are like Kaskade. I used to listen to Galantis. I can't say I would ever listen to them, like the newer stuff. And then Matt Zoe, if you want to, like, he's trance house, like whatever. I wouldn't really count Matt Zoe.
He's made some house music, yeah.
For sure. And I used to, like, Zed again, I can't say. So really it's just Deadmau5 and Kaskade in current days. But I don't know about you. But.
Yeah, I listened to a little bit more than that, but like the two that you mentioned that you still listen to are like my favorites.
Yeah. But the reason I like Kaskade over anything else, and I don't love this genre, but I think Kaskade's an exception because he really does tell stories. His lyrics are so meaningful. His melodies and his songwriting abilities are just so on point. And it really just makes everything else stand out and like last a lot longer in your heart. Not just like, you know, at the concert or like for a party, but it like goes beyond that.
That's so actually, and this is just delaying talking about the album further, but I think it's important to say when I was on the Redo tour, and I went by myself to the Redo tour because I didn't know anybody. That was while I was in college, and I didn't know anybody else who liked Kaskade there, or at least was as diehard as I was, and was willing to drive as far as I was and stay up as like I got back from that tour at 5:30 in the morning. Because I had to drive to a whole other city and stuff, but I was by myself, and I just met this like random dude who I was like vibing with all night, and during the opener that was right before Kaskade, he was like, you know, this guy is probably just as good as Kaskade, but I would argue against that, but the sentiment, he's like, he's probably just as good as Kaskade, but he's like, but I know Kaskade songs like when I hear those lyrics, and I'm like, that's what it is. I mean, he shakes up, like, he has so many edits, so many mashups, like, so many, he transitions into different drops, like, so many different things, but the vocals are, like, present always.
Yeah, and something about the World's album that I lamented was that a lot of them were, like, Porter singing, and a lot of them were different artists. But I don't really have that complaint with Kaskade here, because, like I said, they're all his friends. He has that signature, like, angelic female, like very high pitched.
Yeah, the female vocals are very prominent.
Yeah, and like the theming is consistent. I still think it tells a story, even though it's like all these different artists. And I don't know. I think it really works for most of his work.
Yeah. So we've got Eyes to Open Up, classic. I also really like the Alvin Risk remix of Eyes. It's a very different mood.
But that remix is so. I always forget about that, and then when I like remember it, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so heavy.
Yeah. You got the Fire mix, which is of course like a classic Kaskade style of that time, and then you get the Ice mix, which is almost like a little bit instrumental. You know, It's like not quite. It doesn't like really have a house beat, but like you could kind of call it a deep house song.
I love the drums and the speed. It almost like halves the speed. Like it's like 128, but like half speed with the like slow drums. I love it. And then I really am like intrigued by the like slight glitch halfway through, and then it like picks up like you're in a club. It's almost like you're outside the club about to come in, and then it goes back to this like somber. It's really weird, and I like the choice.
It's like the transitions there are just crazy. And then after that you have Turn It Down, which this is one of my favorites off the album. Both versions are like some of my favorites.
Yeah. Yeah, the lyrics to this one too are kind of intriguing, and like it's almost like a poem. And I always thought like there's no time to let the blood dry. I always got really confused by that line, and as I was like reading the lyrics, I still just like feel stupid not being able to like understand it, but I really like it though.
Sorry, you cut out for a second. I didn't hear. What did you say?
Oh, just like the lyrics like really intrigue me with, especially like there's no time to let the blood dry. I just like never understood that line, and as I was like reading it for this this time over, I just felt kind of stupid not being able to like understand the song, and I'm hoping I'm like I want to know, but
Yeah. I mean, it's like kind of like, to me, it's kind of like it's like turning down the noise and the strife and the like conflict in a relationship, you know.
mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah, and like there's no time to let the blood dry. Like there's like allusions to even like violence there, you know.
Yeah.
Or maybe not even like physical violence, but just like an allegory for like fresh wounds and stuff, you know.
Yeah. Wow. I knew I would feel stupid, but that makes a lot of sense.
No, you're not. Like, hey, like even like if you got something different out of it, we can like take it whatever way. That's just kind of like what I get off of it. This song.
Yeah, no, like I love that. I just feel so ridiculous because when I was like 13 listening to this, I remember he mashed it up with "Animals" by Martin Garrix, and that song had like just come out, and it was like the highlight
before it was stale.
I always thought like it was about being at a concert or a club, and the music being so loud that it makes your ears bleed, and I just feel so stupid about that, but.
Well, like when you think about it, like mixed with animals, like although it slaps, like it doesn't really have any deeper like meaning. So paired with that, it kind of does have that, like it takes on like that new meaning, kind of. Yeah.
And like Turn It Down, I thought it was almost like a, like a fourth wall kind of song, but it's smart that it has that metaphor and it could work in different ways.
I don't know. I think it was him for this song. Like he titled, because he put out that remix on SoundCloud. I think he called it the like festival fodder mix, and like that like kind of makes sense because it's like yo, if I go to a festival, I guess I'm gonna have to play Animals, so I'm gonna mix one of my own songs like with it, you know?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So there's that one. The ice mix of this one is like kind of astonishing when you hear it.
Yeah, I remember the first time I stumbled across this, I was blown away. I was just like in awe. But then listening to it now, I still get down with it, but like, I think this is one of those that should kind of remain in the past, but not in like not to hate too hard on it, but it's just really,
Yeah, we shouldn't try and like imitate it again or bring it back.
No.
Yeah. Then after that we have Lessons in Love, which is featuring Neon Trees. That's an interesting collab.
Yeah, and he actually was friends with the bassist from that band, and that's how they got connected, which again, it's like so cool that it's not just like a pop crossover, but it's like he has that connection to them. And
I think some of the members of Neon Trees are Mormon, so I wonder if they somehow met through like mission or a church event or something like that. That would be really interesting.
Or BYU, that's where he went to school in Utah, so.
Oh, maybe that's where they met.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this one is one of the ones that I like a little bit less. I think I prefer the ice mix on this one.
The ice mix doesn't even like resemble it too much.
Yeah, it's very different. Yeah.
But the original, it's like one of those songs that makes you happy because it reminds you of like being in high school, middle school, and like listening to it. I always liked it back then because it was like a song that was like had that pop band on it or rock band, whatever, and it was like one of those songs that you could kind of introduce somebody into the more niche electronic stuff. But I really don't think it holds up too much. It just sounds like like that sound from that era. Like it doesn't quite hit it still, I don't think, but.
Yeah. I believe like his relationship with Neon Trees is like authentic. Like I don't think it was like meant for this purpose, but it still kinds of winding up being like the crossover to just have a crossover,
Mm-hmm.
But after that, we have another one where the fire mix and the ice mix sound very different, and that is Lick It.
Yeah, this is actually probably how I got into Kaskade.
I was seeing like Skrillex be on this one.
It was either this one or I Remember. It was like probably at the same time, honestly. But Skrillex and deadmau5 were basically my gateway into like everything else. So.
Yeah, so it makes sense. I mean, like same for me, in a lot of ways. This one is like if you listen to each of their solo work, you don't really see. Well, I guess if you listen to a lot of like the Scary Monsters songs, like With You Friends and All I Ask of You, those might make a little bit more sense for a collab. But like, if you listen to First of the Year, you don't really see how that's gonna mix with Move for me.
I mean, like Weekends also, and like his older
Weekends
work.
too, yeah.
But
well, even Weekends, I wouldn't say is exactly like it's a little bit closer, but I don't even know if I could like mash up like Weekends with any Kaskade
oh
stuff.
no, for sure. But like Skrillex was still in that electro scene that like I feel like if we had seen Kaskade in 2011, he probably played a lot of electro with some of his other acapellas and songs.
Yeah, the music video for this one used to freak me out because like the girl's ears are bleeding, and I'm like, that's a lot of blood.
Yeah, how do you interpret the like name of this song? Because like there's no lyrics. I mean, I guess there are. It's like what, Lick the Drop? Is that what it says? Or
Yeah. I don't know what the intent behind this one is, or if there's meant to be intent. Maybe Skrillex and Kaskade just wanted to make like a fun song together. I do say it's not like typical for any genre. I would definitely say it's like an electro song, but I wouldn't say there's like many other songs that sound like the Fire Mix.
no, for sure. And like it reminds me of like Lightspeed by Kill the Noise and That Sick around that time.
Yeah.
And like Steve Aoki and Kill the Noise, I think, have a song together that's kind of similar. Or I'm forgetting to think of. But like there was electro that was like Kill the Noise actually used to do a lot of electro like this. It was almost like more clubby, and like more dancey, I guess. And I think this song, it probably holds up almost better than any of them in terms of like DJing. Like you could kind of throw this into like anything, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's pretty bouncy. It's a lot of fun. I like the fire mix on this one a lot. The ice mix is like pretty good. It's also like very different. I wasn't sure how I felt about this one, re-listening to the ice mix.
Yeah, I had trouble picking out any similarities, and then I listened to them back to back, and I was able to find the start of the ice mix. That same instrument is twice as fast in the fire mix, but like they kind of built a song out of that small little instrument from the fire one.
Dang. That's crazy how they carried. That's the element that they like share between them.
And somewhat the drums, like I was trying to figure out if Skrillex helped him with this mix, and I'm sure he did, because with how the melody builds, it kind of reminds me of like With You Friends in the in the melody. But
yeah. And following Lick It, we have L Love, or LLOVE. Again, I'm not really sure how you say this one.
Yeah, I know the lyrics are like LLOVE, so I think it is. I don't know how you would say it though, but that is correct.
Yeah, it said each letter in the song, but I don't know if the title is supposed to just like say it, or maybe it's just like in the title you would just say like love. I'm not a...
Yeah, I don't really understand even the lyrics. Like I love the chorus lyrics, the like just sing softly, and it's just like over and over. It's beautiful. Like I just adore that part.
Yeah. I think you could kind of say that this one, it's in the middle of the album, and I think you could kind of say it's like the middle of the relationship,
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one that I like the ice mix better. I think there's this point where there's like a low pass filter on it, and just like the sub like comes through on it, which is weird. You don't notice the sub that much in Deep House like that much, and just like there's this point when like the filter goes on, you just hear like the boom boom boom, and it's like such a striking moment to me.
Yeah, this one, the ice one, I really don't like just because of the claps.
You don't?
I mean, it's kind of fun.
Oh yeah,
first,
the claps are on the whole thing. Yeah.
But I do like when the claps die out, and I like the like dynamic chorus, how it kind of makes it all pretty, and I love the violin at the end and like how that slowly comes in. I actually almost every song is so dynamic. Like most house music is so repetitive. Like if you look at, I love Zed around this time period, But if you look at like Zed's music and other electro and other house, it would have a really, really boring intro. Then you would finally get to the meat and potatoes, and then the long outro. But with all of Kaskade's music, it's just a good song. It starts with the melody. There's nothing that's in there for the DJ live setting. It's like, it's beautiful, and it just changes and grows, and like all the instruments come in at different parts, and like the song is just so much better structured, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. It's you want to listen to the whole thing. Yeah. And then after this one is Let Me Go. And this is where some of the songs like start to like I had like forgotten these a lot.
Yeah.
Because these ones were a little bit less impactful for me. But sure. We have Let Me Go.
Yeah, this one I like really love, again, how dynamic it is. What did I write here? I feel like it doesn't like fit with the lyrics that well with the fire mix. But I kind of love the fire mix though, like in terms of, I don't know, it just holds up and it kind of sounds comforting, I guess. Like it's a little more reserved and more on the deep house end of things.
Yeah. I did like the ice mix a good bit going back to it.
Yeah, this is one of the only ice mixes I would like DJ or like have in my collection. I love this ice. Like I forgot this song and I'm glad I like rediscovered it because it's almost like an indie like alternative song. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And this is what I mean by like anything goes on the ice mix. Like it's like what is this?
Yeah, like if you listen to the Turn It Down drop on the ice mix and then this, you would literally think it's like a different artist.
Yeah. So after this one, we have Waste Love.
The bass on the fire mix is like absolutely insane. Like I just love that so much.
Yeah. This is one the fire mix is pretty good. This is another one that I think I enjoy the ice mix a little bit more. It's a little it's a bit deeper. I remember him playing it on the redo tour.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. But this is one that I wish that I had like remembered more.
Me
like
too.
I wish so it was nice to go back to it afterwards.
Yeah. I definitely love how the ice mix like it's very dynamic and like I wish that bass like the bass guitar was in there cuz I just love that sound so much.
Yeah. But hey, that's why there's two sides. We can like get something out of both of them.
I just wish I could like take the stem of the bass guitar and add it to the ice mix cuz otherwise it would be like way better, but
that would be a really awesome edit. If you there are some like VSTs that like you can kind of like isolate instruments
Wait,
with.
I think the intro just has that bass actually, so I could do that.
Well, if you can sample that and throw it on the other one, I think you should look into that. After Waste Love is Ice, which growing up it always confused me. Like, I mean, it's just like a choice of like what to name it, but it frustrated me growing up that there could be an ice mix.
That's so great.
I was just like little 14, 15-year-old me was just like so like pissed about that.
Yeah, this song I don't like. I mean, I used to like it, and I think if you listen to it, you're like, oh my gosh, like this is like that old school early EDM. But like,
it's very indicative of the time for sure.
And like so Kaskade, he did that like video about the making of, and Dada Life like video called in, and they were just like, it seemed like they're the kind of people that are just like always drunk. I mean, I guess they're from like, I forget where they're from, but they're just like
they're from Sweden.
I think so, but they're just like the most party DJs. Like they go hard with their, from what I remember.
Yeah, they actually had a tragic story later where one of them caught cancer, but so that's like the other side of them. But yeah, definitely in Dada Life's. I don't know if you've ever listened to much more Dada Life music, but on their album, The Rules of Dada, the cover is just like some bananas and a giant champagne bottle.
Yeah, like they had a champagne in the video chat, and I think they always had like banana float rafts like at their shows.
Those are like their that's their branding.
But I do love the lyrics in this one. I don't love the lyrics, but I appreciate the lyrics, and I like how they talk about like eyes in it, which got me thinking about the eyes connection and how it's like closer to the end of the album, and how they're talking about like the deceitfulness, like wanting money and like all these things, but then it not being what it appears, and like it almost like is like the innocence leaving from the boy, like he's becoming ice, and his eyes are like see through, and I thought it was like kind of cool for you wouldn't expect it from a song that sounds like that.
Yeah. I really like the fire mix in terms of like kind of remembering what like EDM used to be like.
Yeah.
In terms of like a throwback, but the ice mix of ice uh lets you like focus on the lyrics a little bit more.
Yeah, the ice one I thought was just like I don't know what it's reminding me of, but I definitely don't like it. Like it sounds I guess it makes sense that because it sounds childish to me, but it kind of fits with the lyrics, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah. And then coming into the last two songs, we have How Long after that.
yeah, this one and the fire one, I really don't care for the drop. I just feel like it sounds like an outro. Like it doesn't really build to much, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is one that I prefer the ice one on as well. So this was with Late Night Alumni, as I said before. It was like the group that he's a part of.
oh, it does sound more trancey. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably why I said it sounds like an outro, because like trance music is not like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's definitely placed right on the album, like towards the end.
Yeah, and I love in the ice mix the horns that come in at the end. I thought that sounded like really cool.
Yeah. And then following that, the closer this is another kind of Kaskade classic. Maybe not so much as like Eyes or Move for Me, but I feel like this is another one that people remember a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one, like, I don't know, because I definitely didn't listen to all 10 songs, but I knew this one so well, and it like brought back a lot of happy memories.
Oh yeah, so one of my most prominent memories of this song is if you go look on YouTube, Kaskade has uploaded a splice of the Atmosphere tour where he takes the audio from the LA show but has clips from every single show he did on it, and Skylar Grey comes out and sings this song, and it just those live vocals hit me really hard.
It's so awesome. Yeah, this song I love, and especially the ice mix. I don't know if I've heard it like back in the day, but I love the like whole orchestration, and the no drums. Like it was just so pretty.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good on either side, on the fire side and the ice side. It's like a good closer, and like I said, I kind of take the meaning of having to make more room for happiness after you lose something or someone.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled by your emptiness. There's always so much more room for happiness.
Yeah, and I've like learned that value of like whenever you like fail or something goes wrong in your life, look at it as like a way to learn from it, and I really connect with a lot of the lyrics because of that.
Yeah, for sure. Wow, I really like that way of like comparing each song, both mixes back to back.
Yeah, I kind of wish it were shorter, but I think it's awesome that he did it for this song. I wish he did that for more of his songs, because most of the time he doesn't really release. I think he does this, like you said, for like his Redux shows.
Yeah, he'll have other edits, but you can't like they're not on downloadable format.
But I honestly kind of prefer when there's like special stuff for live.
Yeah.
I know it's like, why would I not want more music? But I just think it makes it more special.
Yeah. And you know, sometimes artists will have like a normal version and a VIP version, which is usually a crazier version. But he'll like have like an album version, a festival version, and a club like a deeper club version, which is just like goes all the way.
Yeah. So how would you say it holds up overall?
So this is so every album and game we've done before, I've said like holds up great. This is the first one that I'm going to be a little more critical of. So I would say in terms of the time, it holds up, but I would say it's not quite as good today as it was back then. I think certain songs like Eyes and Room for Happiness 100% do, but some of the other cuts on the album, they sound more stuck in the like 2011, 2012 era. So I would say it holds up decently well.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think it's evident by the fact that when I saw him in 2018, he literally just played Eyes straight up, and he played like I Remember and like Turn It Down without changing them. But for a lot of these songs, he'll either add like a deeper version or he'll mix it with like a more current song.
Yeah.
Not to say that like just because the artist like changes it or not disowns it, but like, you know, doesn't play it, that it's like doesn't hold up. But I think with him, he's very intelligent and like can, you know, it's pretty obvious that like Lessons in Love would just sound kind of off to like a big Coachella stage.
Yeah, for sure. But it definitely doesn't suck. I still think it's really good. Just sounds a little bit dated.
And I think if somebody somehow hasn't heard house music, I think this is like a good history lesson kind of album. Like this is like not his like first big album, but it's way more commercial, but not in like a bad way. Like it's very, very musical. I think it holds up better, like I was saying, where the songs aren't just made for live. It's just good music.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I really loved going through this whole album with you, and I loved like re-listening to it and thinking about all of our memories of Kaskade together. Do you have any questions to close out the episode from our listeners?
Yeah, I got a question from Matt. He was actually over yesterday because we like grew up in a similar area, so that was nice to reconnect after all the shutdowns and all the virtual stuff. But he was wondering like what our favorite festival was of all time.
Ooh, favorite festival. Ooh. Now, typically I go to since I've really gotten into music, I've gone to a festival almost every year, but not like a wide like spread of different festivals because I've been pretty locked to the East Coast.
Same.
Honestly, I think nothing will replace Free Fest 2012. I know part of that was like the wonder that I experienced. I'd only been to one concert before going to Free Fest in 2012, but I think the spread of different artists and then like the own like experience and vibes that we brought to that, that's where we discovered Tree Pants. I remember running into like the vlogger and he was like asking for directions and we're like, we're gonna go see Skrillex. And like I think Free Fest 2012
and the Skrill mouse.
The Skrillex mouse head. Oh, somebody for people to get a visual, somebody made a dead mouse head, but they put Skrillex hair on it, and it was just like in glasses. Oh, yeah, they were just.
And we found out Skrillex's jean size.
We learned his jean size. Not everybody knows that. We're like pretty super fans. Oh man.
Yeah.
What about you?
That has to be my answer.
Okay.
I've loved almost every festival, but like. That one was so great. It was like, I always think about walking in to like where everybody was lined up. And this was in, I think, October or September.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, September, yeah.
Yeah, it was like the most crisp fall, like no clouds, all blue, the prettiest weather.
Oh yeah, it wasn't too hot. It got a little bit cold at night. I remember Skrillex started his set with a jacket on, but then took it off when things got intense.
Yeah. But like, I often remember that moment, like, right before it, as, like, one of my happiest moments of life.
Yeah.
And I used to look on it and get kind of sad, because I was like, oh, man, I'll never feel that way again.
Yeah.
But then I've gotten to the point where I'm mature, and I'm like, things change, and it's more your perspective, and I didn't let that, like, hang me up. But I love all those memories as well.
I also think it was funny, I remember you didn't have glasses at the time. And I remember... So at some point later, you describing like not being like under like able to like see the stage fully, and I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I like had no idea what the artists were doing, like Alvin Risk and Zed and Porter.
Yeah,
I was like mystified. I was like, "What? This is like magic." They're just making these sounds happen, and I had no idea they were just plugging in a USB stick or a laptop.
Yeah. And now you're a DJ yourself, and you know how all that works.
That's what got me into DJing, was just going to that concert. And I remember I did buy like little refractor light glasses.
Yeah! Oh my gosh, yeah. Dude.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, I think I've definitely had plenty of other good experiences, like camping at Lost Lands was amazing. And but I think the first festival we went to was definitely like my best experience.
For sure.
And there was no burnout, and maybe it was just that I was younger, but I like wasn't burnt out by the end of it.
Yeah. I mean, we've been to more long festivals since then, but that one was so good. And it was for charity. I wish it still happened.
Oh, yeah. So they actually, through the like several free fests that they did, I think there were like 4 or 5 or something, and we went to 2 of them, and they raised over $100,000 for homeless boys in DC. Yeah.
So cool.
Which is pretty crazy that like it was already so cheap. Like for some people it was free, and then I had to pay both years, and it was only $50. Like, you can't get that quality for that little anymore.
No.
All right, my
What's
question
your question?
is from my friend Will, and this is a very deep question. Okay, he says, which harsh truths do you prefer to ignore?
Oh God, that's sobering.
Yeah, like which difficult things do we like to not think about? So like that's like kind of tough, and I can probably think of a lot, but I think for me it's that like I'm a hypocrite, I think is the thing. Like I judge people for like going against the morals and beliefs that they preach all the time. Like I like call people out on that. I like hold my own grudges against people for that. But I have to realize like I've done that before too. Like I'm guilty of that. Like and that I forget a lot. And I think sometimes intentionally forget that like I've been a hypocrite too before.
Yeah, I think so. Our frontal lobe is developing for men until they're like 25 or so. And I feel like this is like I've had compassion before, but I recently heard that like compassion can only be in your heart when you like see something. So like a lot of the time in America, I feel like we're in our comfy suburb, we're in our comfy house, we turn on our TV. We don't really have to confront, children starving or homeless boys in DC or our neighbors that are stressed about paying their next bills or people that are living in a abusive home or people stuck in trafficking. And I've always had a heart for, I've not always, but like, I feel like I've really grown exponentially recently with like that compassion for countries that are hurting. Especially I think trafficking is one of the things I'm like most saddened by,
and that it's still so present and prominent.
Also just like poverty as of late with all the news and all the current stuff that's been going on, how much I've been learning. I love learning it and it helps me to grow in my empathy, but it's almost like the Matrix where it's like you can gain all this knowledge but then it like you can't ignore it and it makes you so sad. So I guess it's like I don't ignore it as much as I used to, but I'm sad that like most people ignore it, and I don't know. It's like nobody has an answer, but it sucks, and I wanna do more. So that's just been been tugging on my heart.
Yeah, definitely. Wow, heavy stuff to close it off, but really good episode. Had a lot of fun with it. Do we have any closing words? Tell people to follow us.
Share the podcast with your friends if you like it. If you know any Kaskade fans or electronic music fans, it's on everything now, I think, right?
Yes, because we made it to Apple and Google finally. So now we're on YouTube, of course, if you want to watch the video, and we're on all major podcasting platforms now. There's some smaller ones we're still working on getting on, but we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, and then 2 other smaller ones. So we're getting out there. Yeah.
Also, I had a great stay at my sister's cafe. I'm in our like way old playroom when we were kids. And there's some crazy nostalgia for it.
Oh yeah,
it holds up.
Yeah, I even have memories of like coming over to visit you and seeing that room.
Oh, so many like nights spent here. Hopefully, we can hang out soon too with everything opening up a little more. And
I should see you within a few weeks.
And I hope to do maybe some live episodes. I don't know. There's a lot in the works, but thank you for listening, and I had so much fun talking about this album.
Yeah, I'm Will.
I'm sure.
And we'll see you next week.